Hello, everyone. Welcome to Isola TV. I'm welcoming you today with our theme of art and design, and we have two very talented designers with a very artistic approach, Federico Fauli and Eugenio Laponte. And I would love to introduce them to you. Let's welcome them.
Hello.
Ciao, Federico.
Hi.
How are you guys doing?
All good, thank you.
You're welcome. I would really like for you to make a little introduction about yourselves. Let's start with Federico.
Sure. So, hi everyone. I would like to say that I'm glad to be here and more than honored to participate in this talk. I'm an architect, and actually I started my academic career in Milan by studying at the Polytechnic of Milan and then transferring in London, where I'm currently based and where I work. I studied at the Architecture Association, where I started developing my interest and my sort of like direction between architecture and art. And now I can define my architectural career by blending boundaries between art and architecture. In terms of working experience, I had the chance to work back in Italy at the Renzo Piano building workshop, and then jumping back a little bit in Zaha Hadid, which again inspired my architectural reflection and my decision on how to approach as a different way architectural knowledge and languages. And while at the moment I'm still an architect and working in London for BIG, so for Bjarke Ingels Groups. And yes, I mean that's what I'm trying to do. So I have a work day, but I try to use my free time and my weekends to try to explore and such an exciting city and influential city such as London, and developing my art piece and sculptures as the one I'm going to present later on.
Thank you so much, Federico. That's very, very nice portfolio you have. It's very interesting. And Eugenio, would you like to talk about yourself and also explain to us what is between your creative name? What is behind Utopia?
Yeah, sure. With pleasure. Thank you for having me, first of all. And hello, I'm Eugenio Laponte. I'm an architect based in Milan, but I come from the south of Italy. I moved here in 2004 to study architecture at the Politecnico di Milano, Leonardo. And after that, I started working with different architectural firms. But in 2017, I decided to found my studio, which was the greatest ambition in my life, let's say, to have my own architectural firm, which goes under the name Eutopiarch, which it's a word that I'm very fond of because it summarizes the whole approach that I have to the project, whatever kind of project it is, because I'm trying to widen and broaden the typologies of projects that I work on. So I work on interior projects, but also design, product, collectible design, set design, so I'm artistic direction. So I'm trying to keep myself very, very busy, let's say, on different typologies. Yeah, going back to the name, I love the name because utopia, we all know what utopia means, even though commonly people think that utopia is an ancient Greek word, but actually it was created by Thomas More in 1516 for this book, Utopia, and it represents an imaginary perfect place, let's say, something that we all achieve to reach. Opposite to it, but sounding the same, it's the Utopia, written with EU, which in Greek means good place, not so something that is actually reachable because real. So we have this dichotomy between something that is unreal, so connected to the realm of the ideas, and something that we can actually achieve with a project. So it perfectly summarizes the philosophical approach that I have towards the project, which is conceived as a sort of journey that starts from an idea, which is utopic, to something real, which is utopia. So that's the meaning of it.
I guess the viewers already know, but I'll tell again that you can find the works and the profiles of Federico and Eugenio on our design community, and I really invite everyone to go check them out because you'll know why, because we're going to share their works right now and they're going to talk about it. So, Federico, I'll share my screen to show your beautiful project, Coscienza Intuitiva. Sorry, my accent. Okay. I would love if you would talk about it and tell us more about what is behind the project and how did you come up with it.
Yep. So Coscienza Intuitiva is a project which it's a different project that is supposedly based on languages and a new way of defining an architectural language. I decided to depict the column as a fragment, as a representation of architecture, but on the other hand, try to depict it from architectural purposes and functions, and just focus on the aesthetical element, the ornamentation of the architecture in this case, and the language. It is a project that tries to emphasize the lack of content and of language and meaning, and which is not simply based on the super collection and sharing of images, but is a sort of relationship between people that is mediated by image. Is a bold critique towards the current social related society in which popular culture and pop iconography and these are elements of bombarding of images. Right.
Elements.
Yeah, they are exactly. These, as you can see, elements in the column are trying to create a visual clash, both in terms of the elements depicted, so the identity of the objects, such as like ancient ruins, such as, for example, in this case, the David, but also the collision that they have with elements of popular culture, such as minions and toys or tramp. So what I'm also trying to define is a new language that is trying to define a physical memento as a sort of an archive in time, and in which element of a specific time and age, as was happening in the ancient time with the Baroque, for examples, are depicting a specific time and specific events and for example, in this case, is the contemporary event and how everything is sort of contaminated by popular iconography and culture. So yes, like the idea of the project itself is this hitch and bold sort of critique toward a society that is indigested of popular iconographies, and they generate forms of beauty from moving from antiquity and historical culture into popular iconographies, and also trying to depict it and trying to understand what would be the friction and contradiction on the topic of heritage for future generation. So of course, it's a sort of like a lot, all condensed in one unique piece. In terms of construction, I have developed and experimented several ways of prototyping the column, try to achieve the exact elements of the contradiction between the resin, so the metallic and pop shiny liquid on the top part, and the stone sort of ruined part of the bottom. And the best solution I found at the moment is the construction through an SLA process. There's a 3D printed skin and resin filled with gypsum to sort of recreate with the heaviness and the sort of monumentality of a real column. The work itself is also showcased at the Seoul Biennale this year in September. It will be also showcased in Mexico at the end of the year. So there are several new exhibitions coming on as a way of showcasing the artwork.
Can you tell us what would be the dimensions of the column?
Yes, so I'm working on different dimensions. So the one that I'm trying to reproduce in the series is up to 70 centimeters. But I'm also building large sculptures. So the largest one is the one for Seoul, which is 220 meter in height and half a meter in diameter. So central diameter of the column. So it's quite big, yeah, and heavy.
Very, very impressive. And it was very interesting to know what is behind it, because when you look at it, of course, it's a beautiful art piece, but when the architect behind the work tells about it, it's much more interesting and it's much more deep. And now that I look closer, I see some minions there and a SpongeBob. Yeah. It's very, very interesting. Thank you so much for talking about it, for taking us through the journey, and hope to see this art piece live soon. Eugenio.
Yes.
Would you like to introduce Jano to us?
Yes, of course. Giano is the Pragma by Utopia number 4. By Pragma, I call my project, let's say. Giano is an evolution of another lamp that I made before, which is Pragma by Utopia number 1, called Stele. It's actually a sconce. And as we will see later in other pictures, we will see that I interconnected 2 of these Stele, these sconces, transforming them into a floor lamp, which in the process of making it actually becomes something completely different, going from a lamp to a light installation, let's say. Also because the different parts that compose the lamp and the product became much more interesting, and I gave them a different meaning working on them. So yeah, the top of the lamp is composed, as I said before, by these 2 interconnected sconces that face opposite direction, and the lamp is called Jano because they are a representation of the Italic god Janus, who was protector, let's say, of every kind of passages, both physical passages, but also philosophical and abstract passages. So he was represented as a being with 1 head and 2 faces, facing the opposite direction as the lamps do. So one representing the past and the other representing the future. So basically the whole being of Janus was representing the constancy of presence. So a constant present composed by both the past and the future. So it was basically the representation of the passages of time, which under the human's point of view is something flowing, while for a god it's something constant. Time does not exist for a god. And that's why I wanted the 2 lamps to be to have a start and finish on the front where they lit the light, while on the back they are mirrored. So there is a constant connection between the 2 of them, because each one reflects the other. And one is in bronze because it wants to represent the past, while the other is in steel, representing the future. They can be moved and placed at different heights, moving along the roads that sustain them, but always keeping them connected, because they represent the face of the 2 faces of one single head, let's say, so like Janus.
Wow.
While at the base, which in this case, as I said, it started as a lamp project, but then it became an installation because I was developing the base, working on different materials, also because I want clearly to make it something that can be reproduced. But for now, this is the only piece existing, which is let's say the Jano number 0, let's say, where I decided to put this sculpture as a base, because it's something that I'm really fond of, because it's always been in my mom's house, and I've always been very fascinated by it, because despite the fact that it's really roughly created, let's say, it perfectly gives you the idea of that the artist wants to give you. And for me, and I gave it another meaning, which is connecting it to Jano, because it perfectly represents the clash between past and future, but in the stillness of the stone. So I thought that this would work as the perfect base for my lamp. Also because I always work trying to, in my general approach is this, trying to put together different pieces that inspire me more than developing new and ex novo pieces.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And guys, I would really like to ask you about, in your works, it is obviously an art piece mixed with a lot of meaning. And how do you find the balance between mixing art and design? Federico.
Yeah, so I think it's always kind of getting inspired from different fields and trying to always work in a multidisciplinary approach. In my opinion, is a key to achieve creativeness. So in this case, what I did was also like a lot of research in terms of histories on ancient architecture, but also how to can recreate some sort of some form and languages at the current time. So therefore, trying to develop new software techniques, working with 3D scanning and new software for manipulations and images. And as I was suggesting before, introducing the process of 3D printing as a way of recreating a sort of an ancient sculpture, but with modern technologies. So I really think this look into software engineering, software design, ancient history, languages of architecture is being extremely helpful for the inspiration of my project.
Thank you. Eugenio, how do you mix the art and design in your works?
Well, first of all, I think that there is not really this dichotomy between art and design.
Yes.
I think that we overcame the conception that if something can be reproduced it is not art. It can be still a work of art. I want to quote one of my of the masters that I look up to more, who is Vincenzo De Cotis, who said that intentions determines the project. The concept that a project has is based on, I think, that determines if it's a work of art or not. It's not the fact that it can be reproduced or what kind of material is used to make it. That's my point of view. So in general, I think that my approach is that I work with some kind of materials, and I think that mainly that my approach is that I think that a more artistic approach towards the project can lead to solve another kind of problem, which is the footprint that the design production can leave. I think that a more artistic and craftsmanship approach to the project can lead to create things that people actually need, you know? So I think that we get to the point that we are creating things that we don't need, or in a number which is more than what people might need. We even sell things that we don't even know that we need before we buy them, you know? So make something on another scale with other times, using other materials, can slow down the process and also low down the number of production, giving people things that they actually need. So giving to the pieces another kind of meaning. So that's my approach to the project.
That's a very nice speech. I also agree with you that now there is no border between art and design, that now they are both something that comes as a couple. So it's very nice that you guys have this beautiful products that has the deep meaning behind it. And you tell me, how do you find the inspiration? For example, how would you find the inspiration for your future products, or if you have some ideas?
Well, the thing is that my approach in showing this kind of object that I showed you just now, it might seem that my approach is more traditional, but I think that we can also connect into the fact that even if something can be reproduced, it can still be a work of art. I think that doesn't mean that we have to stop the research and the development of new technologies. I think that something like 3D print, for example, I'm working on another project which is 3D printed. I think that doesn't mean that it cannot reach the level, let's say, even if that's a bit old school way of thinking, the level of artistry, you know? So I think that we can all, from my point of view, like I get inspiration from everything that I find around, especially when I'm outside the town, because I found this new connection with nature recently, and even something that I find on the street or in a park can be an inspiration, or can actually become a part of a piece of art that I make or product that I work on. So I try to encapsulate the thing. Actually, these other projects, these other elements that you see here, they are called innetti, which means drafting. And the philosophy behind it is creating something functional, three-dimensional, using shards of metals that are completely useless when they are bidimensional. So this approach is the same that I have with Jano, like using different pieces that had a different meaning that connected together became something different. So the inspiration can come from everything, basically.
Maybe you can show to our viewers the products from a little closer.
Yes, so this is candlesticks. As you can see, they are bidimensional shards. They are bronze and satin steel. So like when you intersect them, they become three-dimensional. And this is the candle holder. We have the ashtray. So they work a little like a puzzle, let's say. And this is the mirror. So they are shards that you connect together, giving them a real function, or anyway, changing their meaning as an object.
Thank you so much, Eugenio. And Federico, I would love to hear about how you find inspiration.
Yeah, I'm also have like a little bit of the same approach sometimes. So on the other hand, I'm trying to experiment a lot with new technologies as well, and how you can achieve elements of craftsmanship, but through a totally different approach and direction. So that's also what kind of contradicts most of my projects. I'm trying to create something that creates a shock or an atmosphere, but always looking a little bit out of the box on how to create something that has never been done or has done in a different way, and how I can replicate the same approach, taking something maybe ancient and transforming it into modern. Sort of the languages that I'm showing in my piece, Coscienza Intuitiva, is a sort of a language that tries to affect most of the product that I'm working on currently and that I'm developing in the last few years. So yeah, that's a little bit. And I was saying is a lot of studying, researching in completely different fields from product design and fashion, and how you can translate into architecture, like my case, which is an object, for example.
Thank you so much. It was really interesting to talk with you, and I had a lot of pleasure because until you talk with the author about his work, you would know how much work has done, how much work is behind it. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. And I'm telling to the viewers again that they can check your works on Isola.design. And can't wait to see your new projects on our platform and to see them live. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Thank you.